Hello everyone, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. Hope you've all been doing extremely well. So as you can see, I am out in the woods again today. It is a beautiful day outside. If it's nice where you are, I hope you can get outside and enjoy some sun. So in this video, I want to delve deeply into the topic of the phoenix. So we're going to get into that. In correspondence with this topic, I also want to talk about the double-headed eagle, which we see that symbol in Scottish Rite Freemasonry, but it also has its correspondence with the Tree of Death and Thaumiel on the Tree of Death. If you are new to my channel, this is Occult Perspectives. My name is Tyler Smith, and what I do on here mostly is occult research. We get into ceremonial magic a little bit. We talk about the Golden Dawn. We talk about Freemasonry, Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, the Tree of Death, and other important esoteric subjects. So the reason I wanted to cover the phoenix, I had already kind of planned on that anyway. Today is Thursday. So Monday and Tuesday, me and my fiance, we actually got to go out of town and had a nice getaway at a place in Ohio called Landall's Castle. I highly recommend you look that place up. It was very superb. Beautiful scenery. It's an actual castle that a guy and his wife had built. They had a printing company. They made money from the printing company, and then they used that to have the castle built. And there's actually a Gordon Ramsay episode on Landall's Castle, and it's located in Loudonville, Ohio. I think that's how you say it. It's about 2 hours from where I'm at. So yeah, I highly recommend you check that place out. And if you can, stay the night there, they have rooms in the castle, and then there are rooms like right outside the castle. And we were in one of the rooms right outside of the castle. They've got a pool there and all kinds of cool stuff. There's hiking trails. We went on a little hike. So yeah, it was really beautiful. But anyway, getting back to the phoenix, their logo was a phoenix. It was like a royal crest. I think they're German, maybe. The family's originally from Germany. And there's a phoenix on it, and the shield is green in this case. Got to get rid of the spider web. There's a whole bunch of them here in the woods. I actually need to get a stick so I can kind of poke them away. There we go. But anyway, the phoenix, we see this symbol everywhere. We see it in video games like Zelda, the Ocarina of Time. The Hylian shield has the crest on it with the phoenix. You often see the phoenix, associated with medieval family crests and that sort of thing. But really, the symbol is everywhere. The phoenix is one of the most important symbols of the occult and esoterica in general. As we all know, the phoenix is a symbol of resurrection. So, as the phoenix reaches the end of its cycle, it burns into ashes. And then those ashes, I'm sorry, I got a spider web in my face. That's the one thing about being out here. Sometimes even if you have a stick and you're holding it in front of you, I'll turn it around so you can see, it still doesn't always get all the spider webs, so you still kind of get stuck with them. But that's part of being out in nature. That's some of the fun of it. The spiders have their role to play, They get rid of a lot of other peskier bugs, so I try to respect them as much as possible. And of course, we know about the tunnels of Set, and the spider has a lot of symbology with the Tree of Death and the Qliphoth, and just in general, the spider weaves its web, the cosmic web. So the phoenix, it's an emblem of immortality. The phoenix is burned to ashes, and then it rises again out of the ashes in a new cycle. It arises anew, to transcend the heavens to the heavens once more. So that's just the general understanding of the phoenix. And we each go through these resurrection moments in our lives, you know, where it comes to the end of one cycle and we're about to go through a major transformation. Sometimes this comes through solely in a transformation of consciousness. Other times it can be an actual like physical, alchemical transmutation or transformation. And sometimes there's almost like a death-like quality to how this transformation works. You know, you might have a really crazy trial, or maybe you'll even have something where like your body gets sick and it's actually just expelling all the old energy that's accumulated and built up, so that you can be born anew, you know, in your new state. The phoenix has a lot of correlation with the sign of Scorpio. So if you're a Scorpio, or if you have a lot of Scorpio in your chart, or you just exemplify a lot of Scorpio qualities in general, the Scorpio has 3 stages. It starts out with the scorpion itself, which, you know, it likes to sting, and when it gets backed into a corner, it's gonna sting. It strikes, you know, and that's like the darker aspect of Scorpio. That's a Scorpio who's like not yet completely transformed. He only knows how to be kind of that darker or more primal aspect of the Scorpio. And then there's the serpent, which of course we know the serpent is corresponds with illumination, the kundalini, the rising serpent energies. Be ye as wise as serpents, Christ said. So the serpent is like a more self-realized version. Of course, we know of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the fruits of knowledge, da'at, on the tree of life, that hidden 11th sphere, which we're going to get into here in a little bit. But the serpent is very important, and it's the next stage of the Scorpio. So it's a more illumined, more conscious-oriented Scorpio, rather than just stinging in the dark, you know, at anything that comes its way. It has more consciousness. And then the third and final stage of the Scorpio, and if you want to know more about this threefold cycle, these stages, Mind and Magic, the Mystery School guy on YouTube, well, Mystery School is his playlist, Frater Xavier, he has a really good video on Scorpio. And I don't remember what the name of that video actually is. I think it has something to do with the tree of life or the tree of knowledge. So you're going to want to look for that in the title. But the third and final stage of the Scorpio is the phoenix, which rises from the ashes. It's the transcended master. And there's a lot of correlation, of course, with the phoenix and the third degree of Freemasonry, or usually just the third degree in any initiatory system. Doesn't matter whether it's Freemasonry or anything else, but usually the third degree has to do with resurrection, you know, and transformation. And often death or da'at is a common, you know, theme in that, giving way to new life. So that's like a quick summary of the phoenix itself. Now let's go ahead and delve a little bit further into the double-headed eagle. And see, a lot of the times the people think that like Archangel Gabriel in the West is often associated with the direction of the West, and ceremonial magic is correlated with the eagle, but really it's the phoenix. So the phoenix is the spirit that is connected with Gabriel, the lion, you know, being Archangel Michael, the man of Aquarius with Raphael. Sometimes I see that as like a white dragon rather than the Aquarian man. And then Archangel Uriel is associated with the bull. Those are the 4 creatures of Ezekiel's vision as well. So those are all correspondences we've talked about before in other videos. But the eagle, also the bald eagle, the American eagle, what that really is, of course, is it's a phoenix. You know, there is a destiny with the country of America, and you know the rising of this bird, of this force, and You know, it's been prophesied for a long time. Manly P. Hall has a book called The Secret Destiny of America. I highly recommend you check out that book if you are able to. So let's get into the symbolism of the double-headed eagle or the double-headed phoenix. So in the traditional sense, and if, remember, we see this symbol in Scottish Rite Freemasonry as well, the double-headed eagle. The double-headed eagle can represent the two hemispheres of the brain, the left and the right hemisphere. They can represent the two pillars of King Solomon's temple. Or, in my view, they also kind of represent Hokmah and Binah on the Tree of Life. And then Kether would be the crown on top of the double-headed eagle, which is specifically the symbol for the 33rd degree of Freemasonry. It's the double-headed eagle with the crown on top, crowned with divinity. Now let's take a look at the flip side of this symbol. So that's kind of more the Tree of Life version of the double-headed eagle. But if we look at the Tree of Death or the Qliphoth, we view excuse me, Thaumiel, which is actually the top or the bottom of the Tree of Death, depending on how you want to look at it. So Thaumiel is the double-headed eagle, but it's also Satan and Moloch, the two opposing forces, the two princes of hell. Satan being the adversary or the force that destroys the old universe or the mundane creation in which the magician resides, and then Moloch being the one that gives birth to a new universe. And we often see this deity associated with like owl symbology. If you've ever heard of Bohemian Grove, you know, all of these things. So these two princes, these two opposing forces, they're like the highest degree of polarity, or the most polarized that, you know, the forces could possibly be. And there is this reconciliation at some point with even with these two forces. And I was actually talking to a brother earlier today about some of the details when it comes to Thaumiel. Now, we've talked a lot about Thaumiel, so if you want to know deeper information about that, because I actually had the book and the notes in front of me, go ahead and check out other videos on my Left Hand Path playlist, and also check out the video, the Tree of Life and the Tree of Death, or the Qliphothic Tree Part 2, which is a pretty recent video I did. And I'll actually read some of the details about Thaumiel in that. But Kabbalah, Qliphoth, and Goetic Magic, if you type into Google that book title and then you type in Docdroid, I think it's DOCDROID. I could be spelling it wrong, but it's something along those lines. You should find a free PDF of the book on there. And then just go into this section where it talks about the different spheres of the Qliphoth and look under Thaumiel. But this whole concept of, you know, the initiate entering into universe B through Da'at, the hidden sphere on the Tree of Life. If one is consciously initiating into it, they enter through the cave of Lilith, which we know can manifest in the mundane world as, you know, an actual physical cave, or it could just be, you know, in his book, Thomas Carlson's book, it actually says it could be something as mundane as like a bench in a park that like nobody recognizes or seems to notice when they go by it. So there's many different ways that manifests in the physical world. Universal Mastery actually talks about how next to his old house, when he started his Qliphothic journey and started studying that information, there was an abandoned house or an abandoned mansion that happened to be right next to his house. So I thought that was really cool too, how it will synchronistically, you know, show up in your life. And that's how the person consciously enters through the Universe B system. Clepothic initiation, of course, is something that is not to be taken lightly. If it is something that you are going to undertake, or anybody that you know, you need a really firm foundation before you start that process. Or the powers that you invoke, you know, these different spheres on that tree, you're going to be tested through each sphere. And if you don't make it, it is one of the most, probably the most dangerous, you know, initiatory system, but it also holds the most power within it. So if you can't withstand the energies, they could end up destroying you. But if you make it through the tests, through the trials, you know, you'll come out the other side way stronger. So getting back to this double-headed eagle, the Thaumiel, they represent like the highest degree of polarity, these two opposing forces that can give way to a black hole, which essentially is the creation of the true Universe B. It's the initiate not only being a product of source, which happens when you merge back into Kether on the top of the tree. The left-hand pathist, you know, goes through the same structure. They reach the top of the tree, but there's another step. There's the gate. It's the 11th sphere, which you can traverse through, and it explains it a lot better in the book. I'm just trying to remember kind of off the top of my head how that section of the book, you know, explains it. It explains it in much more detail. But basically rectifying these two polarities and using the friction from them. Now remember, when we look at things even like sex and, you know, forces such as that, which give way to creation, you know, it's all this chaotic energy. It's all this friction, you know, of these two opposing, quote unquote, opposing forces, the male and the female energy, you know, and there's a lot of sweat and a lot of primal energy, primal chaos going on in the process of creating life, you know, of creating another human. So that's like the God power, the God and Goddess power that we have within ourselves, giving way to new creation. But it's interesting that it's this high degrees of polarity or opposites that give way to that. And that it's actually opposition that is a prerequisite for creation itself. So the separation of molecules, you know, it's very scientific. You know, it goes to a very microcosmic level, but it's also macrocosmic as well. These opposing, quote unquote, opposing forces or separation, just the whole influence of the sphere of Gebura in general, giving way to creation. Separation gives way to creation itself. So it's a very interesting paradox. And when you reach Thaumiel, you know, I'm talking about all of this from more of a scholarly perspective. You know, I've definitely can see where this manifests in my life and where it has manifested in other people's lives. But this process of actually entering in through Universe B, you know, there was a point in my life where I felt like I did enter a completely different universe. You know, things start manifesting different for you. And there's different levels of this. So one who actually goes through the Clepothic initiations will enter like a much higher degree of this understanding, which only really comes to light in the higher degrees of initiations. And what was previously viewed as darkness, you know, becomes the light. You begin to perceive the light, making the darkness conscious, as Carl Jung says. It's not about imagining just figures of light, but about making the unconscious conscious, bringing the unconscious to light. Because the unconscious and the subconscious, they highly run the show. You know, basically our whole lives, Universal Mastery, one of his prevalent themes lately has been, he's been talking a lot about the nervous system. So how traumas, from not only an early age when we were young and we forget, but also even other things in our life that are traumatic, you know, they traumatize us to a degree, and then that gets stored within the nervous system. And it will, if you don't actually sit there and integrate and process the emotions, if you don't actually feel the emotions, you don't allow yourself to, you know, just sit with yourself and process these things, they will basically run your life, with you not really consciously understanding why or how it is that you are in the situation that you are in. It's because of these traumas stored deep within the nervous system, that really need to be, integrated and worked through. That represents, going into the darker aspects of ourself, the Klapoth, the tree of death within us, because remember, we are angels. Each of us are angels and demons, and we also have the tree of life and the tree of death within each and every one of us. Remember, these are all aspects of our own self. If we see ourselves as the creators, as the manifestors of our own reality, it's really, we're just learning more about ourselves. We're becoming more conscious of our own true natures. And so what happens at this highest degree of Thaumiel, you reach Kether once again, but from there, the circle is complete, so to speak. They say the circle is closed, and you can just merge or melt into union with divinity, nirvana, so to speak, or, go into the dark, become one with the womb of creation. That would be like Lilith or Mother Kali, kind of staying within that realm. But then there's one further step you can take. You can invert Thaumiel and actually create like this black hole, which leads into a new creation where the magician is not only, there's not something quote unquote above him like source. He is source. He or she is source. So very interesting concepts. So that's kind of what Thaumiel in a nutshell represents. We've talked about that theme in prior videos, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit more in this video, talking about the symbolism of the phoenix, and how they are all interconnected. So that would be really a version of the phoenix where you've integrated the darker aspects of yourself, and then you're rising into the new creation. It's the universe B. And I think there is some interesting correlation with the numbers 9 and 11, because 10 is like the perfect number, so 9 is right before it, and then 11 is of course the two towers, or the pillars, or the gates, the portal through which you enter the other realm. So when you look at 9/11, I don't really get into conspiracy theories anymore, so I'm just viewing it more from like a Kabbalistic perspective. But that whole, the two towers falling and the numbers 9 and 11 Kabbalistically have a lot of significance. Once you start to understand Da'at, and 11 being this gateway which enters, it's beyond Kether, it's the next level. So it's one step even beyond source itself. It becomes like a new creation, a new manifestation, a totally new self. So that really exemplifies what the symbol of the phoenix, is talking about or represents. So, yeah, and I remember talking in a prior video too about with Archangel Raziel, how you have to understand all of creation here in a sense, and everything has to be experienced. And there was this portal that I was shown, essentially, and it looked kind of like the sun, but not quite. But this quote-unquote light that you enter through. And this is, that is the new world. It's another world, but everything kind of has to be integrated and understood here first, so that you can manifest that reality for yourself. If we take full responsibility as being creators, we have to understand, we have to dig into the deeper parts of ourselves and understand why we're here. And then we can make that transformation. We can make that jump, so to speak. So I think I've pretty much covered everything, just about everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I feel like there are some key points I was kind of going over in my mind, some other ones that I wanted to talk about in this video as well. but I think for the most part, I pretty much covered it. So, yeah, I guess, unless anything comes to mind real quick, which, nope, I think another aspect of the Phoenix and resurrection in general in the ancient mystery schools, you know, and it's often a very watered down version of it today in modern, you know, even when you take communion and things of that nature, what that's really symbolic of was, you know, true initiates back in the day. And the old mystery schools would take a drink or an elixir and they would have to drink it. And usually this would be psychedelic in nature, or it would transform the consciousness of the initiate. They had this ritual in Egypt too, the kingship ritual, where he would take the brew and have, you know, basically a psychedelic experience and transcend to the heavens, and he would converse with the past kings, and then he would come back to earth and he would have the divine right to rule. That was an ancient ritual, psychoactive substances that a lot of these old cultures such as Egypt would use. So in a sense, even that whole death and resurrection theme has a lot of connection and a lot to do with the Phoenix. So, alrighty. Oh, and also Stranger Things. If you've ever watched the show Stranger Things, the Upside Down, that's totally what that is. That is the tree of death entering into the sphere of Da'at. And it's also universe B. It is symbolic of that. And I also recommend if any of you have watched on Netflix, there's a show called Dark. That show is really, really neat. There's a lot of time jumping in that show. And there's the 33-year cycle, which we all know, you know, probably by this point, most of you know the significance of the number 33. I could do a video just on the number 33, probably, and a lot of mystic meanings to what that represents. So there's a lot of time travel, and there's also black holes in the show Dark. It's just called Dark. I highly recommend you watch it if you can. It's a pretty slow-paced show. It doesn't really get interesting until about the second season. So you really have to get through the whole first season to appreciate, you know, the show. It was even kind of a little bit slow for me at first, but now that I'm really into it and I kind of know the characters and stuff, it's a super interesting show. So, yeah, anyway, I think that pretty much wraps it up, everybody. So, thank you for watching. If you are new to this channel and you are not yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified of new videos. I try to do them as often as possible. Oh yes, I did want to mention, I did go ahead and create a Patreon page. Now I don't have anything on there yet. It's going to be a little while before I get some videos on there. But what I would like to do is actually demonstrate some rituals on there. You know, do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram, show how they're performed, you know, on my Patreon. I would also like to make different topic, you know, videos of different topics such as this that go a little bit more in depth than, you know, my average YouTube videos, because these videos are meant for the public. So those who become patrons, once I start getting videos on there, you should be able to search my page. It's also called Occult Perspectives. I tried to link the Patreon to my YouTube channel, but I don't know if it actually worked. In the About info on my YouTube page, I don't see where there's a link to that yet. Maybe it's because I haven't posted anything yet. So I'm not even sure if you can find my Patreon page. But it's called Occult Perspectives, and I'm only going to have one tier at first. I'm just going to start with the $5 tier. So if you want to become a member and get access to videos where I perform, you know, different rituals and give deeper insight in videos of different topics such as this. Yeah, where we'll just basically delve a little bit deeper and be able to be a little bit more open about some of the information that's being shared. Just give you higher quality and higher value information on my Patreon. And then, you know, hopefully it can grow from there. So I'm hoping around the time I reach about 1,000 subscribers, I think I'm going to go ahead and start really getting into the Patreon and start posting on that. But I did want to go ahead and get started and create a page. So everyone, once again, I thank you for watching, and subscribe and like if you like this video. Continue to keep a lookout for new videos. And if you know of any people who are into this type of information or can get value from it, please feel free to share it with them as well. So peace and blessings, everyone. Hope you're having an awesome day or night, wherever you may be today. So thank you once again, and I'll see you next time.